Education is also another social institution, and indeed one of the traditional 5 social institutions. Others are the family, the state or political institution, the economy, and religious institution. Today, I would like us to look at education as a social institution. Our discussion will focus on 3 principal areas. 1, we want to look at the meaning of education as a social institution. Then we will look at the functions of education as a social institution. And here we will look at 2 broader types of functions. We have what is called manifest functions and as well as latent functions. Manifest functions are the main functions for which the institution of education was established, while latent function refers to the functions of education that an educational institution plays, but which were not part of the reason for their establishment. But nonetheless, society still appreciates them as being important to its advancement. Welcome to this discussion. We want to begin by making some preliminary observations that the survival of any society depends on the ability of that society to socialize its members, and by this we mean prepare the members in a way that enables them to be useful members of society. In other words, young people must be taught about the norms and values of society, and they must also be exposed through teaching about the skills that are important for their survival and fruitful engagement as adults. Again, societies must ensure that children acquire knowledge, they also acquire skills, as well as behavior patterns, and also values that can propel them to make meaningful contribution to the development of their societies. In order for society to accomplish all this, every society has developed a system of roles and norms which enables it to transmit knowledge, values, and patterns of behavior from one generation to another, with the hope that in doing so, members of society will be better prepared and enabled to play their rightful role in society and therefore enable society to progress. It is this system of norms and roles that society utilizes to transmit knowledge from one generation to another that generally we call education. There are certain important concepts that I would like to clarify before we embark on a discussion on the main functions of education. These concepts include education itself, knowledge, skill, values, and character. Let's begin with education. Education, as we noted earlier, is a social institution that deals with the transmission of knowledge, skills, and cultural values within a formally organized structure. Perhaps an emphasis of the word or the phrase systematic transmission in formally organized structure may be important. Systematic transmission implies that the transfer or all the functions of education is done through properly assembled structures and systems, so that there are structures or systems that define who is qualified to transmit knowledge, where can knowledge transmission be done, when can this be done, and how should it be done. This applies to whether we are talking about formal or modern education, or we are dealing with informal or traditional education. The important concept that has also been highlighted in our definition of education is the term skill. A skill simply refers to a detailed familiarity with or understanding of a person, something, an issue, or a situation. So much so that if we say that a doctor has knowledge, what it means is that a doctor must have knowledge or detailed familiarity with all practices that go with medicine. For instance, drugs, how they are administered, when they are administered, possible interactions, as well as the diagnosis of disease. So that deep knowledge has to be there. An engineer must also have detailed knowledge and familiarity with engineering, a mechanic the same, among others. The other concept that has been captured in our definition of education is skill. When you talk about skill, we simply mean the capacity of an individual to carry out a particular task with minimum time as well as energy. So that if an individual is able to take the shortest time and apply the least amount of energy in undertaking a given task, then that becomes the most skillful person. However, the one that will take more time and more energy to complete any given task, that person becomes the least skillful. Skills can be broadly categorized into general and specific skills. General skills are the skills that we need to undertake general activities. For instance, skills about time management, about teamwork, leadership, self-motivation, and others are general skills. General skills are basically not learned in a formal classroom setting, but sometimes we develop them as part of our natural instinct, or as we undertake something over the years, we gain experience that enables us to master how to undertake a certain task. Specific skills is the one that is needed in undertaking a given task. For instance, an engineering work might require a person with skills in engineering. Driving might require a person with skills in driving. And architecture might require a person with skills in architecture, among others. So the skills that we require to undertake a specific task, that's the one that we call specific skills. Values are defined as what is considered as appropriate or inappropriate, wrong or right. And when we come to about character, character simply refers to the ability for individuals to develop durable moral qualities. Remember, issues of morality becomes very much important, and therefore, if we are able to exercise moral qualities, for instance, integrity, courage, honesty, loyalty, among others, then we are saying that we have character. When we look at this definition again, what it means, therefore, is that apart from skills and knowledge that education as a social institution is meant to impart in us, it is also expected of this institution to help us cultivate and inculcate values and character in individuals so that we want products of an education system that are not only knowledgeable and skillful, but also have values and character. Let's now look at the functions of education. And we want to begin by looking at the main functions of education, which we can also call them the manifest functions. One of the foremost main functions of education is called socialization. Socialization refers to the process by which people or individual behaviors, belief, standards, and motivations are shaped so that such people become important in society. So the entire character building, value building, knowledge building, as well as skill building that we experience right from the time we are born up to much later in our adult life, all that processes that is designed to make us become better people in society, that is what we call socialization. You might recall that right from kindergarten all through to college, we are taught about our roles, about specific academic subjects, as well as political socialization. This is simply political awareness or an awareness about political issues that occur within our vicinity as well as around the globe. We also, over time, learn appropriate attitude and behaviors. For instance, we are taught how to behave, how to develop self-discipline, how to talk to people, how to address people. All these, they constitute part of socialization. When we now proceed to higher level, again, we are exposed to detailed understanding and learning of issues that we encountered at primary, secondary, and even at kindergarten level. So that what happens at higher level is simply detailed understanding or detailed exposure to issues that we had studied earlier. This is done because it is thought that at that level, therefore, cognitively, we are now mature and strong and now capable of comprehending issues in a more detailed manner. The other primary function of education is the transmission of culture. Education instills and transmits the social norms, the values and beliefs into the next generation. It also plays an active and important role in the process of assimilation, where new generation learn dominant cultural values, attitude, and behavior so that they can be productive members of society. From time to time, education teaches us what is considered appropriate, fashionable, and desirable, so that we are in a position to fit properly into the normative beliefs and role expectations in our society. If we are not able to fit, then people will then question the quality of education that we receive. For instance, if the emphasis in an educational institution or system at any historical time is designed to train and impart skills or values of honesty, and then some individuals turn out to be dishonest, corrupt, and engage in other practices that are not desirable, the next thing that society will wonder is, to what extent did the education system that such an individual went through failed in imparting those values and character that meets the expectation of society. So transmission of culture remains an important primary function of the social institution of education. Education is also an important instrument of social control in society. By social control, we simply mean ways in which a society tries to prevent and sanction behaviors that violate norms. When we look at all educational institutions, they have rules, and these rules they want their members to follow. For instance, if you pick a formal educational institution like university, it has rules on, say, the number of hours an individual need to cover in any given program for that individual to be considered as adequately trained to handle the challenges that is faced by that particular sector. Again, there are rules governing what qualification an individual needs to have for him to be admitted to pursue any particular professional program. Furthermore, there are also rules that governs our conduct during exams. So all these rules, they are all designed to ensure that the systems, the values, and other things that make us better people in society are adequately observed and adhered to. So that schools also teaches values such as discipline, respect, obedience, punctuality, and perseverance. We are all required at all times to be respectful to authority, to be disciplined, to obey rules and regulations that have been enacted by particular institutions. We're also required to be conscious about how we manage and utilize time that's available to us. Furthermore, it's also expected of learners, whether at the level of formal or informal education setup, to persevere. These values are channeled into programs based on individual ability and academic achievement, so that if you're doing medicine, there are certain values that you are required to observe. If you're doing education, the same. If you're doing engineering, the same. And also, if you're doing social science-based disciplines, there are certain values that at all times is imparted on learners, so that learners, once they leave such institutional organizations, they are people who are well prepared to manage challenges of that particular sector. So social control is important, because without humans' behavior being shaped and directed appropriately, then it might be difficult for society to progress, because there will be chaos, there will be conflicts, and all these end up undermining societal progress. We want to begin by education, making some preliminary observations and innovation. That education, the survival of any society, is considered an important means of social change on the ability of that society. Educated people are more conscious to and aware socialize of the functionality its members of social systems, and by this we mean also prepare the members in a way of social that enables them, since it provides members of society knowledge. In other words, enhances young people. Our rationality must be taught, and judgments about the norms and values of society. Therefore, and they must also arise in the proportion of educated people in any society about the skills has the potential important of having for their survival and fruitful engagement, more conscious and enlightened about their social environment. Ensure that children, this enlightenment, acquire knowledge, can become an important incentive as well for as change, behavior and innovation. And also, educational institutions that can propel them to engage, make meaningful contribution, share to the development of the researchers with the students, in order for society to accomplish all members of society. Every society quite a lot of important changes and innovation that occur in the world. They have been carried out, which in educational institutions transmit knowledge. Others values have also been set up, and patterns in research institutions from one generation to another. In many cases, with the hope run that in doing so by personnel, members of society also run educational institutions, and so change and innovation becomes their rightful role in society. And therefore, when we look around the world, society progress. Most of the countries that have advanced this system in technology, norms, in commerce, in transportation, and other areas, society utilizes, among others, to transmit knowledge. They have, from one generation to another, established that generally, because we call products of these institutions, education, are capable of identifying problems in society and also working towards finding solutions to those problems. And that leads to social change and also innovation. We now want to look at the latent functions. As I stated earlier, that latent functions, I would like to clarify, can also be called secondary, before minor, we embark on a discussion, or hidden functions on the main education functions. One of the latent functions of education is that it helps in restricting include some activities. It's assumed itself that an educated citizen knowledge and workforce skill are necessary for the smooth functioning of democracy and character. And let's begin with education. Therefore, by insisting that children must be in school, as we noted earlier, societies help in keeping children is a social institution out of the streets. that deals with the transmission
keeping children in
of
schools
knowledge,
also helps in
skills,
securing
and cultural
children
values
from social
within
problems
a formally
such as drugs and
organized
alcohol abuse,
structure.
delinquency,
Perhaps
early pregnancies,
an
among
emphasis
others.
of the word
Governments also all over the
or the
world
phrase
insist on children
systematic
attending schools,
transmission
which help keep them
in
out of
formally organized
full-time job
structure
market
may be important.
for a number of years.
Systematic
And this
transmission
helps in keeping
implies
in check
that
the level of
the
unemployment
transfer
in society.
all the functions of education
the presence of
through
educational
properly
institutions and the
assembled
insistence by society
structures
that kids
and systems
be absorbed in educational
so that
institutions is a
there
powerful
are
instrument
structures or
of
systems
preventing
that
students from being
define
exposed to
who
certain
is
dangers
qualified
that may
to transmit knowledge,
compromise
where
their growth
can knowledge
and therefore
transmission be done,
compromise society's ability
can
to
this be
socialize
done,
them
and how
into
should it be done?
future responsible
This applies.
adults. The other latent function of education is fostering social networks. The establishment of peer relationships in our schools remains an important function, though latent, because schools bring people of similar ages, social class, race, and ethnicity, among others, and this helps in establishing of peer relationships. Again, schools also offer important opportunities for young people to meet future marriage partners and develop social networks that may last for so many years after leaving schools. Indeed, some of the strong relationships and friendships that exist today, when we look at them back, they are those that began when we were in schools. Some couples today, they met in school, while in school. Some people that could consider themselves great friends, such friendship were established in schools, as maybe in colleges, where perhaps they shared dormitories, they shared certain courses, among other things. So the kind of networks that individual develops largely depends on the kind of schooling they were and the kind of friendship that they established in those educational institutions. Creation of a generation gap is also an important yet latent function of education. Students may learn information in ways that contradicts the beliefs that are held by their parents, as well as in their religion. When education conflict with parental attitude and belief, a generation gap emerges. And therefore, the creation of a generation gap is especially achieved if learners embrace the newly acquired perspectives and values which differ markedly with that of their parents. Such values could be in terms of ways of meeting marital partners, dressing styles, eating styles, mannerism in terms of how one addresses others, greetings, among others. Most of these values that contradict those that are held by our parents, they are largely learned at the school level. And that is why we consider educational institution as being an important instrument that helps in the creation of a generation gap. We come to the end for discussion. Take note of any issue that you feel require further discussion so that we can have a look at it again at the appropriate time. Thanks so much for your time.